this is enumerated. It means it's a term it's used in law as equivalent to mentioned specifically or designated or expressed government powers, so on articles of tariff, etc. Enumerated powers, a power specifically delegated by the Constitution to some branch or authority of the national government in which are not denied to that government or reserved to the states or to the people. The powers specifically given to Congress are enumerated in Article 1 of the U.S. Constitution. If you look here, to illustrate how enumerated limited powers, consider the General Welfare Clause of Article 1, Section 8, were the passage containing that clause to be read simply as authorizing Congress to tax and spend for the general welfare, as some read it today, Congress would have been granted all but unlimited power, and the enumeration of other powers would have been of no purpose. Thus, the passage must be read as permitting spending only for enumerated ends. See what they're doing here? And the clause restricts such spending to the general welfare only, not to the welfare of particular parties. Like bringing in illegals. Similarly, the power gives Congress to regulate commerce among the states. Could not have been a power to regulate anything that affects commerce, which is principle in everything, for that would have been too much pointless to any limits imposed by the enumeration. Rather, the Commerce Clause was meant primarily to restrain state power to ensure the free flow of goods and services among the states. Congress was given the power to regulate such commerce as to make it regular. These limitations are reinforced by the Necessary and Proper Clause, which limits the means available to Congress and to those that are necessary for executing the enumerated powers without such means. The enumerated powers cannot have executed and proper for a government dedicated to liberty. As many of their writings make clear, their founders intended the doctrine of enumerated powers to be our principal defense against overreaching government. If there was no power to do something, the government could hardly abuse that power. But they also provided other defenses as well, like dividing the power between the national and state governments, leaving more power to the states and the people. They separated them other powers into three branches. Okay, you see where this is going? There's no place in the Constitution whatsoever, people, that give Congress the power to infringe upon your rights. Like the Second Amendment, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Like I said, there's no place in this Constitution whatsoever to give power to the Congress to regulate your firearms. None, or they would have put it down there. It wasn't the original intent of the Constitution to give Congress that kind of power. Now, I tried to tell you guys before, this thing with the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment to the United States Constitution ratifies and preserves for every citizen the right to keep and bear arms, and that Congress nor any other part or instrument of the federal government can infringe upon that right. They are constitutionally barred from infringing upon your rights. All these damn firearm laws that they pass are passed under the color of law. Now let me show you something here. I don't know if you can see this or not. I'll get this over here. Okay. This is the National Firearms Act of 1934, which is actually part of the Internal Revenue Code, because it imposes a tax upon importers, manufacturers, dealers, and transfers of short-barreled rifles and shotguns, machine guns, and silencers. It requires a registration of such firearms and prohibits their unauthorized importation. That's, you see how they did this? They put this in the Internal Revenue Code. In other words, even back in 1934, they knew they didn't have the power to regulate firearms. They had to put it into the Internal Revenue. Congress doesn't have the right to pass any Firearms Act. You see there, they did not have the power. Then in 1938, they prohibited interstate shipment or receipt of firearms to felons or fugitives from justice, and it prohibits the shipment of stolen firearms. Requires that the firearm manufacturers and dealers obtain a license to the regular shipment of firearms. This statute was repealed by the 1968 Gun Control Act. Now, the Gun Control Act of 1968 it's null and void. It has nothing to do with law. It's the color of law. It is null and void, like it never existed. They do not have the power to pass any laws against the Constitution. Makes them null and void. They cannot come in conflict with the Constitution. Period. Don't take these people's their talks and their utterings and all their words and stuff. If you know the Constitution, you know that they are constitutionally barred from infringing upon your rights. I mean, it's an ironclad contract. You can't infringe. They don't want to realize that, you know, they're not allowed to do that. Hang loose a minute, guys. I got to put the thing up on a thing here, or I can't. It's like, want everything that I got. They can't mess with your rights, people. And that's what they're doing. When they start to infringe on your rights, they got a problem. They can't even legislate it right away. They can't. It's in the Constitution. They are barred from all this. Now, you know, everybody's talking about these red flag laws, you know, and they see all these states jumping on the bandwagon. Oh, yeah, they're big time. As soon as I find it. I got it here somewhere. Somewhere. I guess I should have looked before I leaped, huh? Yeah. Boy, I don't even know where I put it. But anyway, there's red flag laws. What they're doing is Mark Rubio down there, who's of Cuban ancestry, they are so used to bribing people down in Cuba that they just brought that kind of stuff right up here to the States. You want something done, bribe them. So they're bribing all these states. If they enact a red flag law, hey man, we'll give you some money. You know what I'm saying, man? No, that's not right. You can't do that stuff. But that's what they're doing. It's kind of like they did away with all these gangsters, but all they did was move them to Washington, D.C. Maybe I'll put it under red flag. We'll see. Maybe. I'll know in a second. No, that's not it. Rubio pushed that thing through here. Did I put it down here under Rubio or anything? Nope, I don't know where I put it. Yeah, wait a minute. Right there. Rubio's red flag bill, and the states get to get money. Here we go. Extreme risk Protection Order and Violence Prevention Act by Senator Rubio, Jack Reed, Angus King, Susan Collins. Oh, the tragedy at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Florida, a result of multiple system. Shit. We know who they failed. Now, the problem is here. Extreme Risk Protection Order and Violence Protection Act creates an Extreme Risk Protection Order, grant program, and Department of Justice makes states enacting qualifying laws eligible for funding to help implement such laws, such as priority consideration for the Bureau of Justice Assistance discretionary grants. Yeah. So, these states, admit there's money to be made here. That's bribery. You see all those states jumping onto the bandwagon? That's why. Now, I'm pretty sure that bribery is supposed to be against the law under any form of morals that a person would have. You're bribing these people to pass laws to put the people of the United States in jeopardy. You're putting them in jeopardy. The thing is, you have no problem here. You keep saying, well, we're trying to save laws. Okay. If you were trying to save any kind of lives whatsoever, you wouldn't be sending our military kids, our young men, overseas to fight in these so-called United Nations peacekeeping police forces. And so all they are is police force. Now, you're not allowed to put the military into police forces here in the United States because of the Posse Comitatus Act. But here you are, you're sending kids overseas to play policemen and get killed for no damn reason at all. If you wanted to save lives, you'd revoke the UN Charter and stop all the funding to the United Nations. Thanks, Dianne Feinstein, for listening.